Welcome to today's Explainer. When we think of North Korea, we usually picture a completely isolated, backward country, totally cut off from the rest of the modern world. We think of this hermit kingdom, defined entirely by what's locked inside its heavily guarded borders. But what if I told you that their deadliest weapons aren't just the nuclear missiles sitting on launch pads inside the country? Right, so here is the myth. North Korea is just an isolated hermit kingdom. But the terrifying reality is that today, the Kim regime actually operates much like a modern global crime syndicate. Their deadliest operations reach far beyond their own borders. In this explainer, we're going to dive into the true crime reality of how they terrify the world today. Let's jump right into Pillar 1, the prank show assassination. Our story starts back in February of 2017 at the bustling Kuala Lumpur airport in Malaysia. To understand this operation, we really have to look at the target, Kim Jong Nam. He was the elder half-brother of North Korea's dictator Kim Jong-Un. Nam was just waiting for a flight at the airport. Now, because he had publicly criticized the regime over the years, it's alleged that Kim Jong-un had a standing order for his murder. So here you have this extremely high-profile target walking right out in the open in a crowded public terminal. As Nam was walking through the terminal, two women suddenly approached him basically out of nowhere. One threw a liquid directly at his face, and the other quickly covered his mouth with a damp cloth. It was incredibly fast, and within just 20 minutes, Kim Jong-nam was dead. The authorities very quickly realized this was no ordinary poisoning. The weapon used, it was a VX nerve agent. This is a highly illegal and incredibly deadly chemical weapon. The fact that a literal weapon of mass destruction was casually deployed in a civilian airport just shows the sheer terrifying audacity of this operation. But here is absolutely the most bizarre part of this whole thing. When the police caught the two women, they made this stunning claim. They actually stated that North Korean agents had tricked them into believing they were just participating in a hidden camera TV prank show. It perfectly illustrates the surreal, deeply deceptive nature of how these global operations are run. Moving on to Pillar 2, the billion-dollar cyber army. So the regime doesn't just eliminate its human enemies, it also wages a very modern war on global computer networks. And to really grasp their digital warfare strategy, you have to look at the mindset at the very top. There's this chilling quote from the former leader, Kim Jong-il. He supposedly said, "If the internet is like a gun, cyber attacks are like atomic bombs." That brilliantly captures exactly how the regime views digital networks. They aren't just tools for communication, they are weapons of mass disruption. Fast forward to today, and Pyongyang maintains an elite army of state-sponsored hackers with some seriously devastating targets. Like in 2014, they famously crippled Sony Pictures. Why? Well, it was retaliation, because the company released The Interview, a comedy movie about assassinating Kim Jong-un. But they didn't stop there. They quickly moved from corporate retaliation into large-scale global financial theft. And these cyber operations are insanely lucrative. In 2016, North Korean hackers actually infiltrated the Bangladesh National Bank. They managed to steal a staggering $101 million right out of the global financial system before security could even catch on. I mean, that is an incredible amount of money to just vanish digitally. And the scale only gets larger from there. Just a year later, in 2017, they launched a massive ransomware crypto worm. To put this into perspective, this single piece of malicious software infected 300,000 computers globally. It completely locked users out of their own systems and demanded payments in Bitcoin to unlock them. This demonstrates a highly sophisticated worldwide digital net being cast by a country that we so often think of as totally technologically backward. Which brings us to Pillar 3, human terror and the impossible escape. While their global reach is terrifying, stepping foot inside North Korea's borders carries extreme, life-altering dangers. To illustrate this, let's examine the 2015 case of an American college student named Otto Warmbier. He was just visiting North Korea on a standard guided tourist trip. But while there, he was arrested at the airport as he was trying to leave. His alleged crime? He was accused of taking a single propaganda poster from his hotel. And for this incredibly minor, petty offense, the regime sentenced him to 15 years in a brutal labor camp. The tragic facts of what happened next show the truly ruthless nature of the state. After being held for 17 months, the regime finally returned Otto Warmbier to the United States. But he was in a coma, suffering from severe brain damage. And tragically, he died shortly after returning home. It is a really stark reminder of the absolute zero-tolerance, highly punitive system operating within their borders. With a regime this uncompromising, it is totally understandable why citizens try to flee, but escaping is an absolute nightmare. The most obvious route, the border with South Korea, is essentially a dead end. It is covered in active minefields and heavily armed guards, so defectors are actually forced to go the opposite way, making the incredibly dangerous trek across the northern border into China. But successfully crossing that northern border is literally only the beginning of a terrifying ordeal. Defectors face extreme risks even after they leave North Korean soil. See, the Chinese government has a strict policy to deport these defectors right back to North Korea if they're caught. And if they are sent back, they face the most severe punishments imaginable. We're talking execution or being sent to concentration camps. Let's just walk through the agonizing journey a defector actually has to take. Step 1. You have to sneak across the heavily monitored northern border into China. Step 2. You must constantly evade detection by Chinese authorities to avoid that terrible deportation policy. And step 3, you have to secretly travel thousands of miles all the way through the massive landmass of China down into Southeast Asia. They have to complete this entire harrowing journey just to find basic safety and request asylum. So as this deep dive explainer reveals, the label of Hermit Kingdom simply doesn't tell the whole story, does it? Yes, the regime completely isolates its citizens, but its dark reach extends globally. From deadly nerve agents used in public airports, to billion-dollar cyber heists, to the tragic treatment of tourists and its own defectors, this is a modern, terrifying criminal syndicate operating right out in the open on the world stage. Which brings us to our final thought. The reality of this regime is complex, it's highly active, and it's deeply, deeply dangerous. So I want to turn the question over to you. Knowing what you know now about their global reach and their internal ruthlessness, would you ever risk taking a tourist trip to North Korea? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments. And hey, if you enjoyed this explainer, please make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for more incredible deep dives just like this one. Thanks so much for learning with me today.